Hello and welcome back to Contour and Candor. Today we're going to be really short on the contour and high on the candor. Before I get started, as you can see, I'm not in my usual space. I'm in my car today. I want to share a view with y'all. Let's see if it'll let me. Okay, it's not going to let me do what I had hoped, so I will just turn the camera around. Here we go. So this is where I am today. Oh. It is a rainy but beautiful day here, and we've just got, now you can't see. All right, and I have a very special guest for today's Contour and Candor, and it is this little girl. Say hi, Tilly. I had to take Tilly to the vet, so I was rushing around and put my face on without y'all today. But I wanted to pick up, this will be a short video, I wanted to pick up where I was. Every time I try and do this, maybe I shouldn't be doing it. I don't know. All right. I want to pick up where I left off yesterday, which is I'd just been accepted to by a heart surgeon at Ascension St. Vincent's Hospital, and so I was being transferred from South Georgia Medical Center in Brunswick. I'll tell you what, it is so funny. I have spent, I think by that point, I had only had one other trip in an ambulance in my life. And this was just so weird. No, that's not true. I've had two other trips. I had a car accident. Somebody hit my car when I was 18. And then I had a lupus-related incident. But both of those times, I was pretty out of it. This trip, I was not at all out of it. I was very much, aware of what's going on. And I had these two women who were my transport team. They were EMTs, and oh my word, it was funny. It was just funny. So I am incredibly claustrophobic, and they put me in, and I told them both, I was like, just FYI, claustrophobic. I think I waited until I was in the ambulance because I saw how, it was crazy. It was there was so much stuff, and there was a little bench next to where my gurney was, and this one woman, EMT, was sitting next to me, and she was gonna monitor me. Well, she was just smothering me, and oh my goodness, I couldn't take it. And she's talking to me like I'm I don't know if I'm 105 or I'm 5 years old. It was crazy. And she's like, okay, sweetheart. Okay, honey. Are you sure you're okay? And I'm like, yep, I'm doing great. It was funny. It was funny. So they transferred me, got admitted. So I had two forms of insurance at the time. I had, it was about to be the first of the year, right? So actually by that time, may already be the first of the year. It's either very end of, I guess it was, it was the very end of 1 year, the beginning of the other. And I want to say that it had switched over to the new year. And so I had two forms of insurance because I was switching from one to another. And I can't afford, as someone who has lupus, to have any disruption in my coverage just for my long-term eligibility. So I had two forms for the month of January. And you would think that would have helped me with the cost of the journey ahead. It did not. They only would process one, and I still to this day don't understand why that is. And so, long story short, your girl's in a lot of debt. But they can't get blood from a stone. So you pay what you can and you get on with your life. That's all I can do. I've tried to negotiate, but we'll get there. Anyway, so get transferred. The day I'm supposed to have my surgery, my triple, at the time they thought triple bypass. It was like this freakish thing that happened where there was no humidity in the air, or very little humidity in the air, and so they could not perform anything but absolute emergency surgeries because of the risk of like explosion in the operating room. I kid you not, that's what's going on. So, you know, you get all psyched up like, okay, let's get on with this. Let's get this over with. Let's get on the other side of it. And then, oh, there's a delay. Yeah. So, the next day though, I'm not sure if my dad was there yet. He flew down at some point. But yeah, so my mom, poor thing, you know, it was so hard on her, on both my parents, on my siblings. But, you know, I was like, let's do this. Let's get it done and let's get on with it. So had my surgery. It ended up being a quadruple bypass once they got in there and they saw all the blockages. So yeah, had a quadruple bypass, and it went very well apparently. I wasn't awake, and I was in recovery, doing great. The thing that was most like frustrating for me, to be honest, was every time somebody would walk in who had not met me yet, they would always say the same thing. Oh, you're so young to be going through this. And I'm like, yeah, but I am. I didn't say that, but I was thinking it. I was a little snarky, I'll be honest with you. I'm looking for something because I can't stare at my face and not see every single imperfection. Vanity, thy name is moi. Anyway, so better. Yeah. This is my attempt to do a cheaper version of the Tatcha serum. That is the best serum ever. It's a solid serum stick, but it's obscenely expensive. It does last a very, very long time, but I just ran out of my last one. So I'm not even, y'all have to forgive me because I don't have a holder today. So my hand and steering wheel are the holder. Yeah, so this is a pretty good one. A multi-balm it's called, but here, I'll show you in case you care. Dalba, Dalba, double serum, all-in-one multi-balm. Yeah, so everybody's saying, oh, you're so young, you're so young. Yes, that does not help you when you are going through, you know, you've just had heart surgery, you've got tubes coming out of you, the whole deal. Doesn't help. So yeah, so it was like the next day they had me up on my feet, I'm walking, everything's going well. And then my chest starts feeling like weird, like it feels like little pops are going off in my chest. And I'm explaining this to the medical people who are visiting me with a high degree of frequency. And I think they thought I was a little bit nuts at first. And then everything started, my health started to deteriorate. And they are trying to figure out what's going on. So I'm getting worse and worse. And it turns out, and I'm trying to explain what it feels like pop, pop, pop. And so they finally realize that because I had been on steroids for lupus, prednisone in particular, that's the only steroid I was on since I was 22 years old, and now at the time I was 54. So a long time, 32 years. My bones in my chest, in particular my sternum, that they had just sawed through in order to perform the bypass, what they call, I learned this, a cabbage, the quadruple bypass, the cabbage. They so once they close you up, they have to try and heal the bone, put the bones back together. The sternum is the thing, if you forget from science class, is the thing that keeps your rib cage intact, right? Unites it here. So the bone had become brittle, so they had used these metal hooks, sutures, so hooking from one side of the sternum to the other side that had been divided, with a thread, and that was what was holding it together. Well, the bone would fragment, and as a result, the hook would pop. So that is what was going on inside of my chest. And everything was sort of, my health just went phew. So they scheduled a second surgery, but they did not know how they were going to fix it, how they were going to keep my chest together. They just knew that they had to get these fragments out of, like, from floating around in my body, and the hooks from floating around in my body, right? So by then, my dad had flown down, and my very sweet sister-in-law, who was, she was actually in Florida, but on the other side of Florida. She was in Tampa, I was in Jacksonville, and she was there for a sad reason. Her twin sister's long-term boyfriend, partner, had passed away, and it was a celebration of life. So she rented a car and drove across Florida to be with us during the surgery and sit with my dad while my mom was in. So they have only one person in the immediate outside waiting room, and then there's another side waiting room, I guess. So I'm very grateful to Jeannie for that, my sister-in-law, for coming and being there with my parents, and she was a tremendous support to them. Yeah, so had this other surgery, and but they couldn't close me because they had yet to figure out the solution to the problem. So they ended up putting this black, like, foam thing, sponge in my chest to temporarily close it, to prevent infection, I guess, in as much as you can. And then they were still figuring out the solution. Spoiler alert, I found out way later that there was a device that had been invented by a cardiac thoracic surgeon who was practicing in Jacksonville at the time. He was the inventor of this thing that they could have installed potentially, that would have rejoined the two sides of my sternum. Now, there's a possibility that it wouldn't have worked because I maybe didn't have enough density in my bones to accept the appliance, the device. I guess it's more on appliance, but yeah, I found that out later. I was like, are you kidding me? The guy was in the town that I was in. We didn't have him. And of course, my parents are in shock. Their daughter is essentially dying, and I'm out of it. I don't really know what's going on. So I'm in the cardiac ICU, and I think I'm alive today in part by the grace of God and thanks to the cardiac nursing team there. Bomi, I don't think Bomi's ever going to see this. She was the head of the nursing team on cardiac, on the unit. And this wonderful nurse named Juan, who was my night nurse, who I'll tell you about later, and his whole team, like that whole team, they are top notch. I cannot even tell you. So Ascension St. Vincent's Hospital in Jacksonville, Florida. If anybody gets this to them, if they see this, give those people a raise. They are phenomenal. That whole team. I can't remember the name of the lady. I want to say it was Mary, but I don't think it was. And she gave me tough love later. And I did not thank her for it, but I do thank her now. And she figured out a way to brush my hair, and it was getting matted. It was so bad. Anyway, yeah, so thank you to that team. I am forever grateful. Y'all are absolute rock stars. And I mean, you didn't just care for my body, you cared for me, and that is everything when you are in that situation. You were so good to my family. You showed them such love, and they absolutely loved you. So thank you for that. Anyway, so I'm dying at the point that I'm leaving you here. Yeah, so I'm dying, basically. And they were going to have, I can't remember if my brother came down after the sponge was inserted or after the final solution had been they came up with, but probably after the second surgery. And so he came down, and it was funny because I was intubated when he arrived. It must have been the third surgery. So I'll tell you about that later. But yeah, so that is where I'm going to leave you today. I'm keeping it shorter. I don't have makeup to put on, and I hate looking at my own face. So anyway, that is where I'll leave you. Dun, dun, dun. But spoiler alert, I'm alive. So I survived. But I'll tell you more about what happened. And hang on, it's a story, I'm telling you. All right, thanks. Bye. Have a great day.